independent Australian media. Enjoy the show.
Yes, hello everybody, welcome to In Pit Lane, coming to you from the RMIT studios here in Grand Prix City, Melbourne. Well, Grand Prix City, Melbourne, no, and let's not call it that this week. Let's call it Grand Final Week, Melbourne. And the show is streaming because I can hear it on my thing. The reason I have a tablet is if you would like to contact us on In Pit Lane and talk on the live chat, you can do that. I'll just turn that down now. There we are. Now, of course, it is grand final week here in Melbourne, and yes, everybody is talking about the big event, the grand final this weekend. The place has gone grand final crazy. In fact, there's even a holiday. Yes, believe it or not, here in Melbourne we get a public holiday because of the grand final, which is fabulous, and we would like to thank Daniel Andrews for making that possible, because I'm sure everybody at the grand final of the Victorian State Circuit Racing Championships this weekend at Phillip Island really does appreciate that. Yes, that's what we're talking about this week on the program, but also coming up a little bit later on. Look, if you've been watching the show over the years, you would know how much I love the Le Mans 24-hour race. Been lucky enough to go there a few times, and it is just the most magic, wonderful race. There is a plan on at the moment to get some more Australians involved in the Le Mans 24-hour and also in the World Endurance Championship and the Asian Le Mans Series. It's called the Road to Le Mans, and we'll be joined a little bit later by the man who's putting that all together. But right now, first of all, our guests, I will introduce them right now because they've got lots to say. Joining me as my co-host tonight is a man who I think is very delighted with the other grand final that's going on this weekend. Ladies and gentlemen, he is, of course, from E-Racing Magazine, Trent Price. Trent, welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me, Brett. Yep. Tigers, never thought I'm still pinching myself.
So you
My
went
scarf's
on...
in the car, I can go grab it if you want.
That's fine. So I take it you went on...
I did. I'm still a bit hoarse from the experience.
Yeah, I imagine I imagine the atmosphere was incredible.
It was, well, I think they said it actually, the decibel reading actually beat AC/DC's Back in Black tour.
Yes,
like
which
I was part
did,
of that.
yes.
I was part of it.
which I did raise. I mean, sort of, where are the people who jump up and down at Sandown now? The EPA who shut us down at Sandown and Phillip Island at 95 decibels and say anything over which, like our engines will dissolve and will liquefy and we'll all fall over and die.
Yes.
Where the hell were they? Why weren't they out there wandering the boundary of the MCG going,
I think if they'd walked in, they might have turned into a pasty by the time they got out.
Perhaps we should turn them into a pasty. Somebody who will not be exceeding the noise limit, I'm sure, at Phillip Island on the weekend in her Formula Ford is Courtney Prince. Courtney, welcome to In Pit Lane.
Thank you.
So this weekend, it's a national round and a state round, and we'll talk to you about that in just a moment. But are you looking forward to the weekend?
Yes, I am. Phillip Island's one of my favourite tracks, so I'm really excited to go there.
The other grand final, the other great sporting event that is apparently happening on the weekend, does that hold any interest to you at all?
No, not really, just motorsport's my big interest.
Oh, we're going to get along splendidly. Okay, well, speaking of motorsport, it has been a busy weekend of motorsport, not so much locally, but right around the world. Let's find out what's been happening with the In Pit Lane Motorsport News.
This is Holden's new Commodore Supercar. The new turbocharged V6 machine was put through its paces in Queensland by Triple 8's Jamie Whincup, who's excited about the new car and its potential for the future.
It looks awesome. The rear boot lid, rear wing sort of design is fantastic. It's like nothing else. We're expecting really good aero, which then of course means great performance. Well, all the DNA underneath is a supercar. We've added the brand new body shell over the top with the aerodynamic package, and so far it feels fantastic. The work that they've done behind the scenes to this point, in my opinion, we're 99% there. There's just some fine tuning that's got to go on the next few weeks and the next few months till we fully unleash the full version in 2018.
The main visual feature of the new car is its large rear wing and T-tray rear hatch extension. part of many hours of wind tunnel work and lots of development of the new car by the team at Triple Eight.
The teams had to work incredibly hard this year in order to be able to compete on track with the current car, but in the background also work flat out on the development of this new generation Commodore. So by the time we get to the end of this year, the development process of the bodywork, the aerodynamic package, etc., will have taken up about 20,000 hours.
The car will debut next year with Triple Eight set to run the new twin-turbocharged V6. Other Holden teams are expecting to stick with the tried and tested Chev V8, at least until 2019. Kyle Busch has moved into the second round of NASCAR's chase for the championship with a dominant performance at New Hampshire Motor Speedway. Busch survived a multi-car crash on the back stretch that knocked out main rival Martin Truex Jr.'s run at a second straight win to take out his third win of the season. Kyle Larson was second, followed by Matt Kenseth, Brad Keselowski and Truex. The big crash may have ended the championship hopes of Kurt Busch and Kevin Harvick. Harvick's car was hit by Austin Dillon on the last lap of the second stage, as drivers, including Busch, ploughed into the traffic ahead. The championship field will be cut from 16 drivers to 12 following next week's race at Dover International Speedway. Pole sitter Jamie Green looked set for an all-the-way win in last Sunday's DTM round at the Red Bull Ring in Austria, but a late race mechanical failure saw Rene Rust head home an Audi 123. Green had controlled the race from the start and looked to have the victory in his grasp, but when his car slowed suddenly, it was Rust who took the title. Mike Rockenfeller was second, while Nico Muller held off Mercedes driver Gary Paffett for third. Marc Marquez has surged to the front in the fight for the World MotoGP title with a win in the Aragon Grand Prix. Starting from fifth on the grid, Marquez powered his way to the lead after a great race with the returning Valentino Rossi and Jorge Lorenzo to take his fifth win of the season. Danny Pedrosa came on strong in the final third of the race, passing Lorenzo with 2 laps remaining to give the Repsol Honda squad its third 1-2 finish of the year. Lorenzo hung on for third. Brittany Force has returned to victory lane with a win over Steve Torrance in the final round of Top Fuel at the NHRA competition at Maple Grove Raceway last weekend. Force's sister Courtney wasn't as fortunate as Ron Capps continued his great run of form with a 3.968 second pass in his Dodge Charger to beat Force's Camaro in the final of Funny Car. Capps retook the points lead in the countdown to the championship with the win. In Pro Stock, Bo Butner drove his Camaro to victory over fellow Chevy driver Greg Anderson to reclaim the lead in the championship standings. Eddie Crowick rode to the Pro Stock motorcycle victory with a 6.85 second pass on his Screaming Eagle Harley Davidson to beat L.E. Tongale on his Nitro Fish Racing Suzuki to improve his lead in the points standings. Want to know more about In Pit Lane? Well, you can support us via Patreon. Go to patreon.com/In Pit Lane. Remember to subscribe and like our YouTube channel. Check out the In Pit Lane website for lots of live streaming and all the latest news. You can like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, email us at theshow@inpitlane.com, and to find out more about effective and affordable advertising for your company or products, email us at advertise@inpitlane.com. In Pit Lane, 21 years, and they haven't killed us yet.
I tell you what, they came close to killing us tonight, that's for sure. Most of us feeling absolutely dead at the moment. One thing that did brighten us up, and I forgot to mention this at the start of the program, stay tuned for the end of the show. We have an awesome band coming to you tonight. If you like your music loud and heavy and fantastic, then Gen 2 is the name of the band. I mean, what a great name for a band on a motorsport show, Gen 2. They're coming up very soon, and we'll tell you all about their new EP, which is called Generation 1. It's available on iTunes and all the other great places, but more on that later. And also a big event that they've got coming up in Wagga Wagga. So anybody who's watching from around the Wagga Wagga area, we'll be telling you about something that's very special coming up there with Gen 2 and a number of other bands a little bit later on. But coming up this weekend down at Phillip Island is the final round of the Victorian State Circuit Racing Championship, and in particular the next round of the National Formula Ford Championship. And someone who's taking part in both of those championships, as we said earlier, is joining us now. And Courtney, first of all, how many rounds have you done of the state series so far?
I've done all of the 6 rounds of the state.
So where are you at the moment in the point score?
I think 5th.
What's your best result so far?
I've qualified a third and fourth. That's probably my best result, and I think I've finished about fourth or fifth.
So for the speed that you've got in qualifying, you've obviously got good qualifying speed. Is it a sort of an experience thing, or just a fitness level thing that you think you need to sort of work on for the future?
It's just all experience. This is my rookie year in it, and it's a big step up from go-karts and changing gears and all like that, and the starts and just getting used to it, I think, is where I need to improve on.
How did you find it? I mean, coming out of karts, I mean, you know, the speed and all and the reflexes you need in karts is one thing, but you know, you're now, as you say, you're in a whole new world. Everything's a bit bigger, everything's a bit more complicated. There's gears, there's all sorts of things. How difficult have you found it?
Yeah, it was a big jump up, but I'm starting to get used to it now and going to gym a lot with personal training and all like that to get your fitness level up. And the fitness you need to drive the car is, you wouldn't really know unless you've driven it. So.
And that's one thing, I mean, that we've mentioned, you know, a lot of times to people who don't know anything about the sport, is there's a lot of people who think, you know, like it's not a sport, they just sit behind a wheel and they steer it. I mean, but, you know, like even at your level, I mean, and you're not dealing with something with massive downforce or anything like that, but it's still you know, in a relatively short race, but it's obviously still a real challenge in terms of the physical challenge.
Yeah, it is just changing gears and steering, and it's a lot more heavier. There's no power steering or anything than people expect.
Do you think that, Trent, that, you know, is that sort of some of the feedback that you get from people when you're talking to, you know, people who aren't motorsport people, that they've got this idea that you're just like sitting in your lounge chair or playing a video game? I mean, no matter how good they make the simulators and all the rest of it, it's still a simulation. It's not the real thing, is it?
Oh, totally. And it's only, you only have to take them to one of those, you know, go-kart centres, which is nothing like what you need in even on a real motorsport track, but they get a little bit of a taste of what it's like, and you know, you give them 15 minutes there and they're absolutely drained, they're pale in the face, and they go, I have an entirely new appreciation for what they have to go through.
I've mentioned it a few times. Many years ago, the BBC used to have a thing where they brought all the people from all the sports together in sort of the ultimate test of champions to see who was the fittest. And every single year, they ended up dropping it in the end, because every single year, it wasn't the decathletes, it wasn't the tennis players, all that. Every year, it was a Formula One driver, usually in those days, Jody Scheckter. And that was before they were really, you know, like as fit as incredibly as you are now. And so how many times a week do you work out?
About 5 to 6 times a week, depending if there's a race. For example, this week I'll only work up to about Wednesday, so I'm not too tired for the race car.
So what is that? Is it a lot of weight work, or is it more sort of cardio?
Mainly weights, upper body strength, but also cardio.
Do you think that's something that's more important, because being a young woman and all that you need that little bit of extra strength to stay competitive?
Yeah, I believe so. Just boys have normally got quite good strength, and as a female we need more power behind the wheel.
So obviously you mentioned you came from karting. How long were you in karting for?
7 years.
How did you get involved?
I've always been into motorbikes, anything. I wanted to race motorbikes, and my dad said it was too dangerous. So I just kept going, fine, then a go-kart, and he finally got me one, so I started in that.
I've lost track over the years of the guests we've had on who have said that exact same story. You know, I think, like, kids, if there's any kids out there watching, if you want to get a go-kart, just keep hammering your parents to ride motorcycles and they'll get you a go-kart pretty bloody quickly.
Yeah.
So what, tell us about the car that you're driving.
So it's a Megale SJ11, so 2011. It's with Team Sonic, which they have got the 2 Bob Jane Team Porsches. So yeah, it's green, so I stand out on the track, but it's a really step up from go-karts, and it's a really good car to drive.
So who's your teammate in the Sonic team?
I've got about 4.
Oh right, yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
so
it's a few.
Well, in terms of your long-term plan, I mean, obviously what the step up the ladder nowadays is, Cam's are very keen on Formula 4. Was that something you looked at, or are you planning to spend some time in Formula Ford and then go to Formula 4, or might you miss Formula 4 altogether?
We're looking at both options at the start, and we chose Formula Ford just as I could do a few years in it. And yeah, that might be a possible option, but not too sure where I want to go or anything at the moment, so yeah.
So do you have any long-term plans in terms of where you want this career? Do you want to turn this into a career, or at the moment is it just a lot of fun?
No, a career, I would love to get a career out of it. V8 supercars, ultimately F1, but yeah, definitely a career would be amazing.
Well, obviously, with something like that, you'd be looking at people like Simona Di Silvestro and Danica Patrick and all that. Are they the sort of people you look up to? I mean, a lot of people say that the reason we need sort of more young women involved is so that they've got someone to look up to. I mean, we've seen it in cricket, we've seen it in football. Is that important to have those role models, or doesn't it really matter?
No, I think it's really important to have women in motorsport and all levels to look up to, and we haven't really had that, but recently we're getting lots more females involved in sport. I think that's really good for us younger drivers to look up to.
There is a Women in Australian Motorsport group. Have you had any contact with them at all? Any feedback and support from them?
No, not really.
I know some people. We can put them
Yeah, well, I think we need to talk, because it was one thing. I mean, we had Melinda Price on the program last week, and after the program, we did talk about that, and she was sort of saying, yeah, we don't hear a lot from. So, I mean, I think that that's something that they need to get out there, because obviously you're the sort of person they should be getting behind, and at least talking to you.
Yeah.
I mean, Courtney's done an incredible job. I mean, to jump from karts to be 5th, knocking on the door of, I think it's 3rd in the championship, she's well within striking distance, and then who knows, anything could happen up front. So to do that in the first year is pretty, the rookie year is pretty astounding.
And it's good to know that your favourite circuit is Phillip Island so far, because I mean that's the sort of circuit that if you like Phillip Island, that means you're a racer.
Yeah, it's a really fun track. All the fast corners and going really fast is the key.
So obviously part of the thing in developing a racing career and racing at any level, whether it's state or national Formula Ford, requires money. I mean, do you come from a fabulously wealthy family, and did you arrive in a gold Rolls Royce here today, or?
Definitely not. No sponsors, and it's hard to get sponsors and that.
Oh, tell us about it.
Yeah, just try and get your name out there, I guess, and just keep racing and try and get some results. I think that's just what you need to do, and hopefully get some sponsorship to keep you going.
So you've got sponsors at the moment. I can see you've got some logos on you. Are you wearing them for fun, or are these people actually putting their hand in their pocket and contributing for all of this wonderful publicity they're getting tonight?
Yeah, we've got some really good sponsors on board, so hopefully we get some more and that.
Have you got everything planned? I mean, we're getting to the end of this year. How many races have you got to go? I mean, I take it you'll be going through until what, Island Magic?
Yeah, so this Phillip Island round state and national combined, and that's the last race of both of those series. And then in November we've got the Island Magic, and that will conclude the season.
What are the plans for next year?
Next year, state and national again, as this was my rookie year, and hopefully have a crack at the championship.
How important would it be to win that championship? I mean, we saw like Leanne Tander won it recently, but Leanne is a very experienced driver, and I think if you want to, I don't know, Trent, I mean, you can, this is just me, I mean, when you look at sort of, women drivers, and they say how important it is to have role models, my God, Leanne Tander is as good a driver as I've seen in just about anything, any time, and why the hell she isn't in supercars or someone else, I've never understood. Is there a problem? I mean, is there a problem that young women there's still a block, there is still a glass ceiling?
I suppose, I mean, you brought up Simona, and obviously she's a high-profile driver, and obviously very well known overseas. And I suppose supercars wanted their own version of Danica Patrick. I mean, they're very different personalities, of course. Simona's a little bit more quiet, a bit reserved, but I guess Leanne didn't sort of fit into that wave which was sort of coming in at the right time. And a lot of motorsport is timing, getting that timing right, and that just goes from male drivers as well. If you don't get your timing right, then bad luck. You've got to have all the ingredients in place. It's like that pyramid that they talk about, but I mean, Courtney seems to have certainly that, you just see how well spoken she is on TV. She hits all the marks. She's a great driver. They're the two main key ingredients that you need, and sponsors love that. So it's a great time to be, I guess, any driver in motorsport, but certainly for females, the world's their oyster at the moment. You've just got to build on, I guess, those that platform that Danica and Simona have sort of laid down. But Leanne was very much a trailblazer in that regard. But yeah, look, she's still waving the flag, and she's giving a lot of advice to young girls too. So
yeah, she drove the Super 5000, which it takes having a look at it. Yeah, that takes guts.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Okay, well, good luck with both the weekend and for the rest of your career. If there's people at home who want to follow your career and find out more about it, do you have a web page or a Facebook or anything?
Yeah, Courtney Prince Motorsport on Instagram and Facebook, and I've also got a website. It's just Courtney Prince.
Courtney Prince. Okay, well, hopefully people will go there, and hopefully they can. If there's any sponsors out there who want to get in touch and finance you all the way through, perhaps one day you could be on the road to Le Mans.
Yeah, that'd be amazing.
It would be amazing, and it was a wonderful segue on my part, I think, for the moment. And we'll be joined by Ash Mill from the Road to Le Mans a little bit later on. But right now, Courtney, thank you for joining us in Pit Lane.
Thank you for having me.
And Trent will be staying with us, but right now we're going to plug our Patreon page. Yes, if you would like to keep In Pit Lane on the air, then you can support us via the Patreon page. Yes, Patreon is the way that, you know, as viewers you can support us, and of course support community television as it exists nowadays. Things have changed radically, as we said a couple of times on the program. We've got a whole new media landscape, and the thing about that is, if you want to be on television nowadays, the whole sort of advertising thing has broken down. We don't have sort of that thing anymore. So if you would like to support us on Patreon, that would be absolutely fantastic. It's www.patreon.com/InPitLane. And look, all we're asking for is $1.25 a week. I mean, you know, sort of, if you look over the last few weeks of the program, if everybody who watches the program kicked in their $1.25 a week, we would be a lot more comfortable than we are now. And quite frankly, you know, this show is very much a week-to-week proposition at the moment financially. Things are really, obviously, as we're blazing a new trail on this online scenario, we're really looking for, it's really hard to find sponsors because people are used to, you know, television and traditional 30-second ads, and that just doesn't work anymore. And in fact, speaking of advertising, if you would like to advertise with us, if you would like to promote your business or product here on In Pit Lane, you can do that too. You can just get in contact with us. Contact us here at In Pit Lane at advertise@inpitlane.com, and we've got a lot of affordable ways that we can promote your business, not just in Melbourne, as when we were on 31, but right around the world, and of course right around Australia. So that's one thing that we would like you to do, Patreon, and also if you'd like to talk to us about taking part in some sponsorship, then also, as I said, get in touch at advertise@InPitLane. But right now, announced a little bit earlier last week, was a program which is going to hopefully get a few more Australians behind the wheel of you know, top-level sports cars, and also to the world's most famous race, the Le Mans 24-hour. And to find out all about the road to Le Mans, Ash Miller, thank you for joining us in Pit Lane.
No worries, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you very much.
So tell us about the road to Le Mans. What is it? Where did it come from? And yeah, how do people get involved?
Well, it was a bit of a brainchild between myself and one of my colleagues up in Brisbane. Been talking for ages. Both of us have been involved with racing, and just thought the state of motor racing as it goes at the moment, there are not enough talented people that are really coming through the ranks. And what's more, a lot of talented people are losing the chance to continue based on lack of funding or lack of opportunities or anything like that. So we were kind of banding around a few ideas, and we came up with a bit of a concept to make a competition based around the three levels, basically, that we were looking at. The people that want to get involved in racing but couldn't because of budget, so a rookie tier. An amateur tier for those who had done a little bit of racing before, but once again weren't able to really take that next step. And then a professional tier, looking at continuing the career of people that have been in it before and through circumstance or whatever other reason, funding, lost the opportunity to continue going. So that's kind of where the concept came from, and yeah, worked on making that into a competition to be able to get it on the road. Yeah.
Well, you're calling it the road to Le Mans. Where does Le Mans 24-hour fit into all of this?
The top tier of the race to Le Mans is going to be LMP3 in the Asian Le Mans Championship. That's where we're looking at directing our most experienced and most talented toward, with the aim of then making the progression to the Le Mans 24-hour itself. Obviously, as a team or manufacturer winning the LMP3 class in the Asian Le Mans series, you then get an entry to do LMP2 in Le Mans. So that's where that's where that concept came from, basically, is the Le Mans category.
So do you think with the LMP3, I mean, we know that LMP1 is really struggling at the moment, and I'll bring Trent on this as well. LMP3 seems to be, there was a lot of doubters about it, but it now does seem to be doing exactly what the ACO had hoped that it would be doing, and that is providing an alternative for people who would otherwise just go straight into something like GT3.
Exactly. I mean, it's that bridging step between prototypes and the GTs. You know, so it's a much more affordable basis, but you're still getting the experience from a car with stacks of aerodynamics and the general concept of a prototype car, but for a lot less budget. So it's really, that's, you know, having that as a concept is really great for junior drivers and guys that are coming up and really want to take that road to Le Mans. You know, it's really bridged that gap, which is a nice thing to see.
And a lot of the gentleman drivers too are finding that the LMP3s are so much more fun than a GT car, and it's the same price as well. You know, and so, and with that as well, they can bring on a lot of young talent to co-drive with them.
Yes.
So it just has a compounding effect.
Exactly, it keeps on rewarding, basically. You know, and you've obviously got a lot of support now with manufacturers like Ligier, Norma, and things like that have actually built chassis for the purpose, and because they're so readily available, customer-wise, that's also bringing the category up as well. So it's accessible, it's a lot more fun, and it is breeding a younger generation of guys that really want to come in towards the prototype style of things, which wasn't there before. You know, so it's an exciting thing to get involved with.
We saw on the weekend of the European Le Mans series, we had James Allen, who won the race. We were hoping to have some footage of it. Unfortunately, they didn't get back to us with that footage. But so James Allen was one of the drivers who won that particular race. And also we had Ricky Capo, a guest here on In Pit Lane last year, was racing in LMP3. And Neil Muston, who raced in Radicals, was over there as well. And we've got, there's quite a few Australians now already involved in the Asian Le Mans series, isn't there? People like Tim Macrow and those sort of people.
And Josh Burden. They're really finding their feet there, and not just as drivers, but they're actually becoming, I guess, figureheads and promotional tools for the series as well. It's just fantastic, and I wouldn't be surprised to see that really starting to grow and become a premier category in, I guess the Eurasian motorsport industry.
We see a lot of guys you can see a lot of the guys that are coming to LMP3 have done other things, have tried GTs, tried radicals, tried single seaters, have been there. You know, they're not teaching people to suck eggs or anything. You know, like they've been there before, they know what it takes. And to see them all now accumulating in LMP3, it really shows the value of the category as a whole. And he said, like, there's a lot of Aussies that are really doing well out of the category because it is, you know, with the proximity to Asia and having it right there, it's almost the next best thing to be able to jump into something that's of that caliber in Asia, instead of making the trip all the way over to Europe to start with, sort of thing. It's like, it's that nice little stopgap in between. It's a really valuable class to get involved with at the moment.
So what's your involvement with the Asian Le Mans series? Have you spoken to teams over there? Have you spoken to the organisers of Asian Le Mans about this project and what they might be able to do? And
we've had, obviously, like it's in terms of the final details, we're still banding about a few ideas, but ultimately what we'd like to do is get our own car involved and purchase our own car and have that as a dedicated race to Le Mans sort of product, I guess, sort of thing, and actually have that there with the aim of having it as a standalone, as a part of the championship, obviously, but as its own entity, you know, to be able to make the maximum impact, I guess,
And we talk about, you know, Australian products moving into Asia and all the rest of it, and it really annoys me because one of the reasons that they don't move in there is they seem to think that, you know, Asia is just going to throw up its hands and say, oh, thank you, oh, Australian product, oh, please come in. You got to advertise the bloody things, and this is a really good opportunity for, you know, not massive Australian companies, but, you know, reasonable sized Australian companies to get their products and their brands out there in front of people in a number of countries, including China. I mean, that's the biggest market, you know, in the world.
Exactly, and relevance-wise, I mean, China and Australia have a very good relationship with a lot of different businesses as well. So from an Australia to China and vice versa combination, that itself makes a lot of sense, you know. So, but that's what we're aiming to do with the competition, is to try and bring people that are obviously very talented from Australia and push them into the overseas market, you know.
So how do people get involved? If there's people out there and they say, you know, like, this is what I want to do, what do they need to do?
What we're going to be doing, entries will be opening mid-October. When that eventually does happen, the Facebook page, Race to Le Mans on Facebook, is probably the best way to get in touch. Obviously, there's an email address as well, info@racetolemans.com. But when that actually does launch, send the applications in, just general details on name, age, experience, and things like that. We are capping it at 16 years and above, obviously, to be able to then get the CAMS license.
So Courtney is ready to...
She's ready to go.
She's ready to go.
Jump straight in, have a spot for you. But yeah, so like obviously 16 and above for eligibility for the CAMS license. But from there on in, it's open slather pretty much.
Let's talk about, we mentioned Le Mans a few times. Let's just quickly move on to the current state of play at Le Mans and also in the FIA World Endurance Championship. LMP1 is struggling. We've got Porsche have gone, Audi have gone. Just recently, in fact last week, the FIA put in via Autosport and motorsport.com, motorsport.tv, they put in a rather bizarre sort of survey. Have you read this survey? And
Yeah.
Does some of these questions, I mean, do you like danger? Do you like crashes? Do you like gardening? I mean, what the hell are they on?
Yeah, do you like who dares wins? Do you like solo? Do you know?
Do you play chess? Like,
Yeah,
bizarre.
Do you like opera? Do you like ballet? The one I like the best of all is the question that says, do you like motorsport? And one of the things is, no, I have no interest in motorsport at all. Then the question is, what are you doing there?
Well, it seems like a strange question, but then you look at some of the audience. I mean, they have seen their products go to the Formula E now, and that audience isn't a traditional motorsport audience, so they're probably trying to think outside the box a little bit in that sense. But I mean, what better way to write your own regulations but to get someone else to do it for you?
Exactly, yeah.
So what would you like to say? I mean, you've been following it for a long time. I mean, it seems to be that they seem to have this obsession with hybrid and with electric, as you say, in this with Formula E. My view is, I just want to see fast cars racing, good cars, big fields, and quite frankly, I'd like to save the world, but it really annoys me why we keep having to justify our existence. I mean, golf doesn't have to keep justifying its existence. Soccer, football, cricket, they don't have to. They're saying, oh yes, well, cricket contributes so much to saving the planet. We're a sport. We're an entertainment. Why the hell do we have to keep justifying ourselves?
We're a soft target.
Yeah.
We're a soft target, and we're going to have a carbon neutral footprint. All those support vehicles at the Tour de France, no one cares about that. They just see the guys on the bikes.
Yeah.
And maybe some of the drugs. But anyway, apart from that, it is. Motorsport's a soft target, so they have to be seen to be doing something. But I think we're at a bit of a crossroads here, or we're at least in that middling step to sort of going back and realising maybe we just have to be a spectacular sport again, because the ACO are talking about bringing back the hybrid cars and penalising them pretty much, and getting the petrol-driven cars, giving them more advantages again. So what's in it for the manufacturers who are making hybrid cars?
Yeah.
If you're going to nubble us, why would we be in the sport? So I think, unfortunately, the ACO and the WSC are going to learn the hard way, and you'll probably end up with another beefed up LMP2 category, which was like Group C sports cars.
Yeah.
And it'll be spectacular again.
Like
and everyone will
IMSA
love it.
at the moment.
So, they're absolutely pantsing them at the moment.
Yeah.
And there's a case in point. They say, well, we need to attract manufacturers by being sort of clean and green, but they've got manufacturers coming out of their ears, and they're not hybrids. I mean, they're just in there because it's bloody good marketing and it's affordable.
Yeah, that's it. And you have to look at Rallycross, which is starting to look towards becoming electric. But the good thing about that series is it's going to be very spectacular just because of the amount of torque going through these cars. So the fact that they don't make sound is not going to make a difference. They're still going to be jumping over and leaping and being just
that's
spectacular.
The spectacle. It's still a spectacle, exactly.
The fact that they don't make noise is going to make a difference to me, I'm afraid. Okay, so when if people want to find out more about the Road to Le Mans, where do they go?
Facebook is the one.
Facebook?
Race to Le Mans on Facebook. Get in touch. That's pretty much the best way to do it at the moment while we're setting up everything. The competition, once it's started with the entries in October, will go through till, I think, the competition starts in May next year, runs through to July. There's going to be Queensland round, New South Wales and Victorian round, with the final being held in New South Wales. It's at the moment we're pretty sure it's going to be open to international entries as well. We've had a lot of questions from international people from overseas about it, but they're going to have to get their asses to Australia, I think. So that's what we're.
Now, you did mention the problem of money before. Where's the money coming from for all of this?
We've had some investors on this one, so it's all our joint investment between all the parties involved. So it's a very inside kind of thing. Obviously, we're looking for any supporters and things like that that'd love to jump on board to kind of help out a little bit and get the project really taking off, sort of thing. But at the moment, a lot of it's self invested. So a huge just a huge effort's gone into making this thing a reality, and making sure that we can provide a realistic chance for drivers to make it, to revitalise their careers or get one going.
Yeah, well, as you say, it's really needed, because right now, I mean, one of the problems we have in terms of young Australian talent is that there's a real logjam at the top in supercars, and you know, we need some alternatives for them to get behind. Trent, e-racing magazine, where do people go and find out about that and get to read it?
Just go to e-racingmag.com, and there's the link to the website where we just do the stories every week, but also there's the link to the magazine as well, which we get out as soon as we can. So yeah, we've got a couple more rounds coming up in Fuji and then in China. So yeah, it's all ramping up again.
Yes, and in our time zone for a change.
Nice. Don't have to wake up at 2 a.m. and spend 6 hours. Yeah,
I thought you liked that.
Yeah.
Shaking.
Very glad they're not going. Very glad they're not going to Mexico, and I'm not too upset the fact that the starting time of the Sebring race now.
Yeah, it's a bit more.
I think it's pretty stupid, but for us in Australia, it's absolutely perfect.
Yes, well, the Brits complain about it, which you're half one now.
Oh,
Yeah, I don't see that, no.
Okay, guys, thanks for joining us. Thanks for joining us in Pit Lane. And the other big event on the weekend, Trent, who's going to win and by how much, did we ask?
Oh, I don't know. It's pretty open this season, isn't it? Really, I don't think you could. I mean, certainly the Pro Drive cars are looking pretty good. They're coming right at the right end of the season, so they're looking pretty speedy. But you know, it's one of those races where anything can happen.
Yeah, I was actually thinking of the football thing, but yeah.
Oh right, yeah. Well, I'm sure Kevin's trying to play the line. Mate, I'm not getting in. I'm too nervous. Can't do it.
Have you got any interest in what's happening at the MCG on the weekend?
It's like they say, the grand final just means there's racing next week. So.
Yes, that's it. It's one. It's the countdown to Bathurst.
That's
isn't
it.
Yeah. I'm hoping. I'm really, like most people in Melbourne, I'm hoping for a Richmond win. However, a lot of nervous energy was expanded last week, and Adelaide are a very professional unit. But let's keep our fingers crossed. Go Tigers.
You must believe.
We must believe. When we shall believe. Okay, guys, thanks for joining us in Pit Lane.
No worries, my pleasure.
And now, thanks for you to join us. Hope you'll join us next week. Speaking of Bathurst, we're going to have the big Bathurst Bash next week, the big preview show. Dave Still will be joining us next week, amongst other people, hopefully, and we'll be talking about the big one at Mount Panorama. Now, as I mentioned, music tonight. We've got a great band for you tonight. They're called Gen 2, and as I said, what an ideal name for a band. And they've got a big show coming up at Wagga Wagga on November the 9th. It's after the anti-domestic violence rally, so that's coming up. So if you know anybody around the Wagga Wagga area, for anybody watching in New South Wales, that's going to be an absolutely huge event up there in Wagga Wagga. Also, they've got an EP out at the moment on iTunes, 4-track EP. You can get that on iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, Shazam, all the places where you get modern music nowadays. And also, the song they're singing tonight, Fight the Black Dog, they're going to release that as a single, and 100% of the income that they get from that single when they sell it is going to go to the Black Dog Foundation to fight depression. That's up in New South Wales. So so I'm sure when you hear the song, look, don't just drag it off internet or something. Spend a little bit of money and go to iTunes and get it when it comes out, and that'll go to a good cause as well. So without further ado, I want to say thank you to our crew tonight who have worked above and beyond the call of duty. It's been a massive night. As you see, they were a really big band, but it was certainly worth it, I think. This is Gen 2 and Fight the Black Dog. Until we see you next week, good night.
To the tracks, staring in the mirror at the stranger staring back. You got everything they want, but nothing that you need. They'll fight you if you let it. They'll laugh and watch you bleed. Corner hide in the darkness. No place to retreat. If you fall, gotta lose it all. Fight the black dog. You gotta fight the black dog. Fight the black dog. Waves of noise and anger crashing through your head. You don't know where it comes from. You only know it's there. You try to crush it, pack it down, pretend that you don't care. But hollow satisfaction is the mask you're forced to wear. You got everything they want, but nothing that you need. It'll bite you if you let it. It'll laugh and watch you bleed. You can't let it beat you. Don't let it take you down. There's someone in your corner. Gotta go another round. Fight the black dog. Gotta fight the black dog. Fight the black dog. Fight the black dog. Gotta fight the black dog. Fight the black dog. You need. It'll bite you if you let it. It'll laugh and watch you bleed. You can't let it beat you. Don't let it take you down. There's someone in your corner. Gotta go another round. Fight the black dog. Gotta fight the black dog. Fight the black dog. Fight the black dog. Gotta fight the black dog. Fight the black dog. Fight, black dog. Fight, fight, fight. Gotta fight, black dog. Fight, fight, fight. Gotta fight. You can win. Push it down. You can fight. You can win. You're not alone. You can fight. You can win. Push it down. You can fight. You can win. You're not